Hi guys, I'm doing another video today to explain what the Matrix is. I had somebody in one of the groups that I manage ask about the Matrix and hadn't heard the term before, so I thought it would be good to do a basic video to try to just understand the basics of the Matrix system. I know there's still a lot of people on different levels of the journey, and so I just wanted to explain what it is and how it affects you on your spiritual journey. And basically the Matrix is like a spider web of consciousness. It's a mix of truth and lies that created a web around your mind, and it's got in your consciousness can't ascend into higher dimensions because every time it tries to get out, it gets stuck on something that violates the spiritual laws. And so the Matrix system is kind of like jail bars around your brain, literally, that prevent you from evolving and expanding in your human consciousness and back into the higher dimensions. And there's a lot to be said about whether it was done intentionally or unintentionally, and all of that, in terms of who was ruling the world and which countries, and how they, maybe teachings were altered and things like that to control humanity. And so obviously there was a lot of darkness at play in that regard. And this is really what the book of Revelations talks about, and this is really what the days of enlightenment are about, is to be able to crack those codes and to be able to escape that matrix system. And so you really have to take the time to study your teachings and your belief systems, and really question everything that you've ever been taught, because there's a lot of things where there's truth in it and then there's not truth in it, and the part that's not truth of it can actually cut you off from your own spirit's truth, and therefore you can't ascend. You have to stay in alignment with your true spiritual essence and the spiritual laws, and if you don't, you get caught in the matrix system, and it causes reincarnation cycles and suffering and all kinds of horrible things. So the matrix itself is literally a mind control web. There's a lot of different aspects to it, whether it be different religious beliefs, or what your country told you to think, or what your parents even told you to think because they didn't know any better, or they were taught that and they didn't know that you could believe one thing and not everything about it, or that you could go to church and believe this part of the church and not this thing that was said. So you really have to be able to use your brain, use your thinking and your heart at the same time, and feel whether what you've been believing is really true to your soul. And you have to be able to separate what's truth from lies. And that's really what the Matrix is it's a web of lies. That is the Satan's domain. It is affecting your capacity to travel into higher dimensions, because it gets you caught in that trap, and then you can't ascend. And that's not just with a body, that's even after you don't have a body. If you don't work your way through it, through your consciousness, then it can cause you to stay earthbound. And so I'll give you a couple of examples of what is a matrix issue. And I know a lot of people might argue this, because there's a lot of people at different levels of consciousness, and there's a lot of people that maybe haven't ascended yet or evolved it, to this state. But I will just bring it up anyways for you to consider. The couple of different things that would be considered matrixy would be the teaching that it's common to just go out and have, casual sex with anybody, anywhere. And you see it on TV, and you see it in the magazines, and you see people talking about it, and you go to parties and people are doing it, and even in elementary school now, the kids are talking about it. And it's been socially kind of programmed into society that this is a normal behavior. And the truth of our souls are that our sexuality is highly, highly sacred, and that it's meant for love, and the power that comes from merging your spirit with another partner it is incredible. So if you're merging with just anybody and everybody and multiple partners, you're taking on spiritual energy from them into your own being, and it can cause all kinds of problems for you, broken marriages and cheating and spouses and, you know, killing over jealousy and all fragmentation of the mind and all sorts of things that cause the soul to become distorted. And so that is one of many things that you need to use your discernment on as you're going through your journey, and as you're trying to ascend and evolve in your own life, is to pay very close attention to what you're doing and thinking and believing and how your soul feels. So, you know, and I'll just tell you that in my journey, I was raised religious, and I was raised to believe in chastity, and I was in no way did I stay chaste. You know, I was like a lot of people. I got caught in the idea that it's just casual and normal to go out and mate with whoever you are attracted to, and I didn't understand the consequences until many years later, and after a lot of heartbreak and a lot of other situations in life, that I started to realize that it really wasn't making me happy to do that, and it wasn't really what I wanted, so why was I doing it? And then realizing also how it had so much of an impact on my own life and my own happiness. And so I had to do a lot of soul searching to get to where I really understood things, and I was also guided with angelic beings after my awakening. So I was assisted in that part of the journey, because I still didn't get it long after my awakening, and it took me a few years to work through that as well. But that would be one thing. And another thing is, and don't anybody get mad at me, I'm just gonna throw this out there, and you can use your own discernment and decide how you're gonna interpret it. But you know, there's truth in all the different religious systems, there's truth in all things, but there's also some kind of distortions in how people have interpreted different teachings, or who ended up ruling the land, whether they changed some of the writings, or whether it was altered with interpretation or different languages, and how we've evolved over time, and how that's also altered our languages. And so there's a lot of confusion and imperfection in our teachings that we rely on in religious institutions, as opposed to having just a pure channel of spirit to work with. And so no matter what religious belief system you are in, you could very well be getting caught in the matrix, because there's a lot of stuff that's truth in there, and then there's some things that really aren't, and it's gonna catch you in that matrix again. So you really want to, no matter what your faith is or where you are in the world, you really want to use your own intuition and your own guidance on that as well, because no matter what it is that your background is, you still have to use your own spirit in every single thing that you think and choose and experience and act on in life. And another matrix situation would also be, you know, just your governmental kind of structures. The idea that my country is better than your country and that type of a thing is most definitely got us to start dividing amongst ourselves and dividing ourselves against ourselves, which is not unity consciousness. That is a separation, and that is really not what the divine soul is about. And so that's another one of the many forms of the matrix system to try to fragment the soul, because again, if you start getting in that I'm better than you, then you start to have hate and separation, and that takes you away from your true soul essence and from the divine and from unity consciousness, which is your truth and your ticket to higher dimensions. So I would really encourage you, no matter where you're at or in your journey, to always just stay checking it and keep an open mind at all times, and just make sure that it feels right in your soul, because your spirit's going to tell you if it's true or not. And sometimes the mind will trick you, because you'll be so used to thinking that it's true. But if you keep an open mind and you really do, you know, keep yourself open and remember that love is the key, love for all beings, love for the planet, and love for all animals, and for all people of all countries. That's really the key to your ascension. So hopefully that helps, and I appreciate you coming to watch this video. Thank you. Namaste.